Beneath this sea lies more than 1 million tons of World War II weapons. They were never dismantled. They were never disarmed. If corrosion breaks one seal, if a fishing net drags across the wrong place, fishermen die. Shipping lanes close. Entire coastlines are poisoned. This is not a grave. It is a loaded arsenal. And the question is no longer if it will move, but who will pay the price when it does. When World War II ended, the United Kingdom faced a problem few outside military circles fully understood: millions of tons of live weapons with no battlefield to justify keeping them. Conventional explosives, artillery rockets, and even chemical weapons were stacked in inland depots, awaiting a final fate. The solution came through the British Ministry of Defence and War Office, which designated Beaufort's Dyke, a deep submarine trench in the North Channel between Scotland and Northern Ireland, as the official ordnance disposal ground. Its depth, up to 300 meters, and proximity to the naval port at Cairnryan made it a convenient and, at the time, seemingly safe location. Between 1945 and the early 1972s, government-directed operations saw ships loaded with surplus ammunition and chemical canisters sail from Cairnryan and empty their cargo directly into the trench. Records from the period are fragmentary. Many logs were not kept or were later lost, and detailed documentation of dumped tonnages and specific units is sparse. But Ministry of Defense estimates and corroborating historical research place the total at well over 1 million tons of munitions, including phosgene-filled artillery rockets dumped in July 1945 alone. At the time, officials believed deep water would isolate the danger. Few contemporaneous assessments weighed long-term corrosion, environmental contamination, or the risk to civilian activity in the busy Irish Sea. Subsequent assurances of safety have been repeatedly challenged as unexploded ordnance and phosphorus bombs began appearing on nearby beaches, forcing bomb disposal operations and raising questions about the original decisions. This was a bureaucratic decision with strategic logic in 1945, not malice that failed to anticipate the price coastal communities and fishermen might pay decades later. Among the weapons dumped into Beaufort's Dyke were not only conventional explosives, but chemical munitions materials fundamentally different in how they behave once released into the sea. Some of these weapons contained mustard gas, a chemical agent already infamous during the war. Unlike bombs or mines, it was never designed to destroy through force. It was designed to destroy through contact. In cold seawater, mustard gas does not disperse. It becomes heavier than water. It sinks, settling into the sediment where light never reaches. Encased in steel shells, these chemicals were expected to remain sealed, but steel corrodes. Decades underwater weaken casings that were never meant to endure permanent submersion. When corrosion finally breaches a container, the agent does not dissolve. It congeals into thick, tar-like clumps, remaining toxic for years. Exposure is not always immediate. Mustard gas is absorbed through skin. Damage continues beneath the surface, unseen at first. Hours later, blisters form. Tissue begins to die. What appears minor can progress into deep chemical burns and necrosis that are slow to heal and difficult to treat. For fishermen operating in the Irish Sea, the danger is not theoretical. Trawling nets dragged across the seabed can pull contaminated material back to the surface. When handled unknowingly, it does not announce itself as a weapon. It looks like debris, like residue. This is not a hazard that explodes. It lingers, and once released from the seabed, it does not stay where it was buried. The ROV touches the seabed. The lights ignite, and the frame fills instantly. Not with rock, not with wreckage. Weapons. Bombs stacked end to end. Artillery shells, lying shoulder to shoulder, naval mines pressed into the silt. There is no empty ground, no safe edge for the eye to rest. Every direction the camera turns reveals more of the same dense, deliberate, and endless. The camera pans left. The field of weapons continues beyond the limits of the frame. It pans right. There is no break. The lens tilts down. Another layer appears beneath the first. Then another objects piled where gravity allowed them to settle, accumulating over decades. This is not debris scattered by chance. It is a stockpile, lowered intact and left exactly where it fell. For a few seconds, there is no voice, no music, only the low hum of the ROV holding position as the scale sinks in. Then, the vehicle inches forward. A single shell fills the foreground, its casing eaten thin by corrosion. The ROV slows, then stops. Thrusters cut back to a whisper. Even a faint wash of water would be enough to stir the silt. The camera eases closer. Too close. It backs away. No contact. No disturbance. Even machines keep their distance here. A torn fragment of fishing net lies snagged between two munitions, fibers stretched and frayed. It does not belong on the seabed, but it explains how contact happens, how something buried stays buried until it doesn't. The ROV resumes movement, carefully threading through a landscape that leaves no margin for error. Weapons slide past the edges of the frame, disappearing into darkness that promises more of the same. This is only the entrance, and everything here arrived intact. The ROV slows. After the overwhelming scale of the trench, the camera no longer searches the horizon. It begins to choose. A single bomb rests half buried in silt, its casing intact, its fuse untouched. Nearby, a naval mine lies on its side, pressure horns still visible beneath layers of corrosion. These weapons were never dropped, never fired, never used for what they were built to do. They arrived here complete. Time has not made them safer. Close up, the steel tells a different story. Edges soften where corrosion has eaten through protective layers. Seams weaken. Fine cracks trace the outline of mechanisms designed to remain sealed. Silt gathers thickly around the base of each object, packed tightly enough that even a small disturbance would send it drifting. The danger here is not motion. It is instability. The camera catches a darker stain in the sand. Not oil, not shadow, something heavier. It clings to the seabed, uneven, unnatural. No name is spoken, none is needed. What was explained earlier is now simply present, silent, patient, and unchanged by time. Then, signs of people. A section of fishing net lies twisted between two shells, fibers stretched thin before snapping. A steel hook, bent and abandoned, rests nearby. This is not debris from the war. It is recent. Evidence of work interrupted. Some fishermen never knew what they had brought up. The exposure did not announce itself. There was no explosion, no immediate pain. The damage came later: burns that appeared hours after contact, injuries that worsened without warning. Ships were pulled from service. Cargo holds were sealed. Voyages ended quietly, without headlines or memorials. The sea did not explode. It simply passed the harm along. The ROV drifts onward and stops before an opened ammunition crate. The wood is long gone. The metal frame collapsed outward. Inside, shells lie scattered, undisturbed. Resting among them is a small metal tag. The camera holds, stamped into its surface, still legible after decades underwater. 1,944, Lot 317. Someone once handled this, stamped it, checked it, signed off before it was sealed and shipped. Not a soldier, not a commander, just a human link in a chain that never truly broke. The ROV eases backward. The tag shrinks in the frame, swallowed again by the surrounding weapons. The wider graveyard returns to view, not as a mass of steel, but as a record, not of a battle, but of decisions. This place is no longer a battlefield. There are no opposing sides here, no commands being followed, no enemy left to face. The weapons below do not target anyone. They do not choose. They simply wait. For a net dragged too low, for a hull that passes too close, for a moment of contact that no one planned. This is a war without soldiers. No uniforms, no medals, only civilians who never signed up for it. Fishermen, sailors, coastal communities living beside a danger they cannot see.